So welcome to this video. So today I want to look at why we should edit in 16-bit mode in Photoshop and other software editing programs. So you can understand 16-bit mode as being a state for your image. 16-bit versus 8-bit is describing how many tones are in your image. So a 16-bit image will have much more tonal information inside it, whereas an 8-bit image will have less tonal information. So for instance, if you're taking photographs with your camera and you're saving your images as JPEG images, they will be saved as 8-bit images, so they'll have less tonal information than if you were to save your images as RAW images. Now most cameras, when they create RAW images, will save the images as either something between 10 and 14 bits, but it's still recommended to edit them in 16-bit mode because that way you're preserving the tonal information. And I'm just going to show you through a quick demonstration why that is important, and just talk a little bit about getting the best out of your images, because most images do take some amount of post-processing, editing them afterwards. And in order to do that, you should have the best possible image to start with the most amount of information in it. So you see here something called a lack of tonal information can also sometimes cause this, what we see here, which is banding. So banding is these lines that we get where we don't no longer get this kind of smooth tonal range. So for instance, if you open up a JPEG image and you open it straight into Photoshop, it's going to be obviously an 8-bit image. It won't make any difference if you go, so in Photoshop we were to image, we were to mode, and you can change from 8-bit to 16-bit here. It won't make any difference if you change it to 16-bit because it's already been created as an 8-bit image. So you won't magic in the missing 8 bits of tonal information by changing the mode here. It has to be a 16-bit image to start with. And one of the only ways of doing that is by starting with the raw data when you bring it into Photoshop. And we'll just have a quick look at that. So if we go to raw here, I have a raw file here, which if I double click on it, it opens in Adobe Camera Raw. And we see down here at the bottom, so we see down here I have my import settings. So these are the settings that will be used when I import into Photoshop. At the moment this is Pro Photo, so this is the color profile. We won't talk about that today. And then next to that we have 16-bit. So that's what we want to discuss. So at the moment this will import as a 16-bit image. So it will retain all the tonal information in this. Now this was taken with a Sony A7R camera. So that means that it will have, I think the Sony cameras, the raw images record about 12 bits of tonal information. So it still makes sense to open it as a 16-bit image, because if I open it as an 8-bit, I'm going to lose that extra 4 bits of tonal information, which is quite a lot of information to lose. So just make sure you need to check these values when you're opening your image. Now this only works with, as I said, an image that has either been created as a RAW file. If you open up a JPEG in Adobe Camera Raw, which you can do, and choose to open it as a 16-bit image, again, it's not going to give you more data to work with. Because the image was created by your camera, the processor in your camera has taken that data that hit the sensor and converted it to a JPEG image, an 8-bit JPEG image for you. So it's already discarded a lot of that information that was perhaps recorded by the sensor when your camera did that conversion to JPEG. And I'll talk about image formats a little bit at the end of the video. So I'm just going to cancel this and I'm going to close this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new image. So I'm going to go to File, New. I'm going to create 2 of these. So I have the settings here already. The width 2000 pixels by 800 pixels. Resolution here doesn't matter. RGB color mode, transparent, and then we leave the color profile just on this sRGB. And most importantly is this one, so 8-bit. I'm going to create this first of all as an 8-bit image. So I'm going to click on Create. And I'm going to go and create a new one. And the only thing I'm going to change now is I'm going to change this from 8-bit to 16-bit. And go Create. And I'm going to do a gradient in each image, the same gradient. So I'm going to click here, drag across, so I get a gradient from white to black. So it's got all that tonal information in there, going from white all the way to black. And I go back to my 8-bit image, and I do the same thing, white to black. Now I'm going to make an extreme edit. This isn't a type of edit that you would ever make on a normal image, but this is just for demonstration purposes to show you the difference between the tonal information that's available in an 8-bit and 16-bit image. Now they look the same on the screen. You know, the 8-bit and the 16-bit, they both look exactly the same. A lot of the time that can be down to, of course, the amount of colors and tones your monitor can display. Of course, you're limited by your hardware as well. So the monitor won't be able to display all the colors or all the tones, but it uses a profile to display what it thinks are the correct colors to you. But we're going to show you through this demonstration, you'll be able to visually see the difference between an 8-bit and a 16-bit image. So first I'm going to go to the 8-bit image, and I'm going to go up here to Image, Adjustments and Levels. This is a destructive adjustment, which of course normally we don't recommend, but just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to change the output levels to 100 and 150. I need to remember those because I'm clicking OK. And then I'm going to go back up again, Image, Adjustments, Levels, and this time recorrect that to get back my tonal information. So 100 to 150. And okay, now you can see I've been left with a lot of banding here. Okay, so let's do the same thing with the 16-bit image. So I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments and Levels, and I'm going to do the same thing, 100 and 150. So I'm basically destroying and decimating the tonal information in there, and then I'm trying to get it back through this levels adjustment. So come here, 100 to 150 to get it back. And you can see here the difference. So this is just a visual way of seeing that the 16-bit image contains so much more tonal information that it's not visually affecting the image on the screen. So if we think about that when we're editing our images, and we have an image like the one here that I just looked at in Adobe Camera Raw, where we have these nice gradients in the sky. So if you make a couple of edits to such an image, it may happen then that it starts, if the image is a JPEG 8-bit image, you may start getting banding. And that banding it really looks terrible. So it's jumping from one tone to another. It doesn't have that smooth graduation. So I said I'd talk a little bit about image format. So first of all, JPEG versus TIFF. So those are two common image formats that we use. So when we're working with our images and we're working with 16-bit images, when I'm working with an image, if it has layers in it, I will obviously save it as a PSD, a Photoshop file type. But normally I will store my images as 16-bit images, and I will need to save them as TIFF files. TIFF files can be rather big, so when you go to save, you can add compression to your TIFF files. Now the useful thing about compression with TIFF files is it's what's called lossless compression. So it doesn't throw away any data. It compresses the file size down, but it won't throw data away. The size will still be bigger than your JPEG image, but by compressing it with the lossless compression, you can still save a little bit on your drive space by not filling up your drive with all your images. On the other hand, JPEG compresses images. You need your image to be 8-bit. There is the JPEG 2000 format, but that was never taken on. It was created to replace the original JPEG format, but it hasn't been, for whatever reason, wasn't taken on. JPEG 2000 does support 16-bit images, but JPEG doesn't, so you have to save them as 8-bit, and JPEG does a lossy compression. So what is a lossy compression? A lossy compression just means that it actually discards data when it compresses it. So if you're saving and storing your images as JPEGs, they will not be in a state for editing afterwards, at least not for doing a lot of editing. You can perhaps do minor edits to them, but you may end up getting banding because they're going to be as a JPEG in 8-bit mode, and it's also throwing away tonal information in the shadows and the highlights that you may not be able to get back again. So it's recommended normally that you're either going to be working with PSD files or TIFF files when you're saving your images. And of course, then if you want to get the best out of your images, it is recommended to also shoot in RAW. So I hope this video was useful. If anything, it just demonstrates the reasons why, as Adobe recommends in their best practices, why we should edit in 16-bit mode when we're editing in Photoshop or Lightroom or any other software that you're using for editing. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, you can post them below. If you like what you see in the channel, please like the video and subscribe. It helps the channel a lot. Thank you and bye.